Hello, Reverend Crystal Cox here. Continuing my series on my personal experience with Port Townsend homeless issues. I'm going to tell you about my night at the OlyCap, the Vets Club homeless shelter downtown Port Townsend. It was a couple years ago. A lot of the same people are still there, same issues. I've been in and out of the building a few times, even in the last few months, working with some of the folks trying to help them find their family. Okay, so it was really, really cold. Picture it, a dark and stormy night. So I had just got this different vehicle, and I hadn't really got into the whole sleeping in the cold in Port Townsend. Now, it's old hat. 6 years, I got it, it's peaceful, I love the water. I'm going to share some beautiful experiences too, because my connection to the water and the docks and the heron and the otters, it morphed into something amazing and beautiful, and my connection to God and my connection to my own spirit guides and visions, and it's ended up being a beautiful experience, one in which I now love. So I'm giving you my perspective, not from a place of a victim, and I believe I create my own reality, and I'm not asking anyone for help. I'm sharing my experience to give a perspective. Got a little off topic, but if you've been watching my stuff, you know that I do that. Okay, so it was a dark and stormy night. So I went to OlyCap, and I'm like, because it's freezing, right? Like we're talking in the teens, and I'm like, yeah. And like I said, it was before I got kind of the little tricks on how to be warm in a vehicle. And at night, it's freezing temperatures. So I went there, and they're like, no, we can't fit you in. So come in the next night by 5, and you get in. I'm like, okay, so I just got to get through one night. So I went back the next day, and they're like, no, we don't have any beds. And I said, well, and I described the woman the day before and said she told me to come back. So then they're like, oh, okay. So then they give me a bed. Okay, so there was a meal at like 5, and believe me, food is a blessing, and it is a blessing that the local churches provide food. However, it's really empty food. It's like what I would imagine prison food is, and it just was really. And I know a lot of people like tater tots, and they like, white bread and gravy stuff, and it's great. And I'm not necessarily dissing it, but at the same time, it just wasn't, it's just hard. It's hard to feed that many people every night. Let's just leave it at that. Didn't enjoy the food, though, didn't eat much of it. And once I got in, you can't go out again, right? Because, and I'll talk in other videos, before that there was alcohol issues. And so when I was living in a vehicle, I'd see them come out, right? And they go sneak in the bushes, and they drink alcohol, and they go back into the shelter. So now they don't let them go out after 11. And frankly, I kind of like it, because it makes downtown. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that and get myself into more trouble than I already do, right, with these videos. So there was movie time. So there was men and women in this open room, and one TV. Right, and then there's another area where women can sit in private, but it's just a couch facing a bathroom, and it was weird and sterile environment, not like clean, but like very industrial, but just cliquey and suspicious, and fights breaking out. One guy was pushing this other guy. They're fighting because of the guy sat in the wrong chair. Like he knew that was my chair. So the OlyCap people come in, and they're like, well, they kind of broke it up. They pushed them apart, and I guess they can do that with the men. We had, in the room that I stayed in, there was a fight that broke out. It was a one night with some women, and they're like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Anyway, I digress. So I met some cool people, and I some of them pretty scared. It's you have to. There's a trust issue. There's a lot going on. But one TV, and it was loud, and there was a whole diverse group of people, and it just didn't. It wasn't nice, friendly. Yeah. I don't even know if I'll post this when it's just. Because I have been connected with so many of the people that are there. You remember Julie? She was there 6 years. Mary's been there 5 years. The woman that goes up and down with the dolly, the red dolly with all her stuff, she was there for years but left because of abuse. I know a guy that a gay guy that was discriminated against. He had issues with the police and courts here because he really was being discriminated against. They really were saying horrible things about gay people. There's, I don't know, some people calling people anti-Semitic and getting into huge arguments, and there's people that are ranging from in their 20s to in their 80s, and some have, you know, it's too broad of a perspective. And in my opinion, it was supposed to be a temporary shelter, right? So when you go in, and there's this big open floor, and I don't know, just a lot of beds for the men, right? They have no privacy. They have no separation between the beds. They're cots, right? And why can't they do twin beds? Why couldn't they do double twin beds? Why can't they have some sort of privacy many, many years later? These things don't cost much. And if you organize the community, you could get it built. Privacy is the most important thing. Anyway, and so, you know, and the men, I'm not going to say they like to fight, but some of them like to fight. And so, just not a lot of happy people in there. Okay, so the women, the room that I was in, there was 5 cots. And, like an army cot. I was regretting it immediately, but I prayed about it, and I decided to stay the night and experience it. So fluorescent lights beaming down, loud TV. The room I was in, there's like a window, and the TV's on the other side of it. Now the men, mostly it was men, but people can come and go all night and play the TV, and they did. The light stays on in the hall, so there's a light. Your room's lit up all the time. There was a gal in there, probably in her 30s, and she came and went a lot during the night and kept turning the light on. No problem. We had to leave the door open, right? So no quiet, no privacy. There was a woman in there who, like, she was near death. Well, there was one that had cancer that was like saying she was near death. Another one is sick of something else. But this woman came in like with a bad flu, bad cold, sniffing, just horrible. I gave her some flu medicine. I did what I could for her. But and she's very. It was so cold that she'd been brought in, but she had lived in a tent around Kaitai or whatever. And so she's just trying, just getting into resting, and then the other woman just kept messing with her. And she kept flipping on the light, and she kept screwing with her and messing with her. And then the girl finally was like, you know, she just kind of blew, and she threw a fit, and she's getting her stuff ready to go. And so then they're kind of fighting, but the one's just going to leave. So because there's yelling, the OlyCap people come in, and then they're like, well, there's nothing we can do, right? They're like, we can't break up a fight, we can't. And so the girl that was really sick, they just left with her. So she kind of got thrown out. Very, very sick. Who knows where she went, right? So I went out there because I felt compelled, you know, as I do, as you've noticed, to set the record straight. So I said, well, I just wanted you guys to know that the other girl was abusing everybody in the room, and that she was being abusive, but they let her stay. She ended up getting thrown out 2 or 3 months later because I think she tried to stab somebody and she beat somebody else up. But the wrong person was getting thrown out, and I was trying to just give witness. But, you know, you don't have any credibility. You're just a person. You're homeless, so you don't have a home, you don't have a car, and you don't have a lot of worth, and they don't hear you because they're being paid. So you could easily be, like, I could have worked there. I could be like, okay, well, now I'm running the show. Now I'm getting $13 an hour or whatever, and now I'm the boss. Right? And I'm not dissing the people. It's the rules that they have, but what good is it for the community if when they go into the shelter, there's more abuse being created, and then when they go out to the community, they're more stressed out and more abusive, right? So I kind of bonded with one elderly gal. She's still there, been there for years, can hardly walk. Ended up connecting with quite a lot of them more later, you know, just long term. And Julie, if you remember Julie, 5-6 years. And you watch from the beginning what they are and how it goes later after living at the shelter. And the shelter's supposed to be temporary, right? For people to come in and then, you know, get on their feet and whatever. But the programs really aren't in place to help people get on their feet. And a lot of people, yeah, they don't want to. And they move from shelter to shelter because they like community. They like being around people. Maybe they're from big families. I don't like being in a room like some sort of a torture chamber with nonstop TV all night and nonstop lights and people fighting all the time and discrimination and icky food. that's not what I like. So the next day, relieved to be set free. Like it's 7 or 8 a.m. because you got to leave the shelter at 8, you know, wander around until it closes. I think it's changed now because of COVID, but that's how it was then. And so I just warmed up my vehicle and got in it, and I was happy to be there. I was like, no way, never, rather freeze to death in a car. Because, or a tent, because I can have mental calm. I can have privacy, I can have quiet, I can have calm. So even though I don't have warmth and food and TV and all of the other people around, which some people go to shelters for, I have mental sanity and clarity and peace. And to me, that's more valuable than just being indoors with that kind of abuse and situation. And it wasn't a one-off, so it didn't happen just once. So I'd interviewed people over years. I've connected with people. I know a lot of stories of what went on there. You know, people hitchhiking, people that have had well, let's just not go into that. We'll tell you some of the individual stories at some point, but you know, like you've all probably seen that gal that goes up and down the hill with the red dolly and all of her stuff. I mean, she must have some big old muscles, right? Why doesn't nobody help her? Like, if I had a truck, I'd try to help her, you know, up and down the hill, but I'm not in a position to help her. But I wonder, like, 5 years, you see the same people. I wonder how many people, you know, interact, or how many people think the way I do. Like, I wish I could help them. What can I do to help them? You know, because society, and you can see as the people that make comments on my stuff, they don't like the sense of entitlement. They're like, well, I don't want to just give them a handout, and if I'm going to give them my hard-earned money, then they need to be the people I need them to be. They need to have certain conditions, and they need to meet my approval so that I'll give them $20 or $50. It's not worth it. If I have to be your version of me to get $50 from you for gas to stay warm, no way, right? So yeah, go earn $50, go find another way, create $50, warm up your car. No problem. But I've discussed in other videos the threshold of getting into a house, but I know a lot of you disagree with me, and you let me know that you think that I should be your version of me, and I should have certain conditions and certain things that I spend my money on, certain things I believe, and certain things I do, and certain degrees I have, so that you'll help. But if you're only going to help me with conditional love and conditional hoops, I don't want it. I would rather die freezing in a tent than be your version of me. Don't expect people to be who you need them to be. Don't judge what they spend their money on. Don't judge what they do. Give unconditionally. Who the hecksters are you, right? You don't get to tell me. You give me $100 and then you tell me how I need to spend it, and you tell me what I'm I don't use this word because it was in one of my recent comments, but I will. You tell me, okay, you give me $100 and then you judge what I'm squandering it on, okay? So if I bought some joints, would that be squandering? If I bought a Coca-Cola, would it be squandering? If I bought an organic apple? If I bought some underwear, maybe some jeans, right? If I bought a book, like what right do you have to say what I need? And if you'll only give money to people conditioned on your approval or disapproval of their behavior, no thank you. Okay, you don't get to own me for $50 or $100. You don't get to go up to someone on the street and go, I'll give you $50. I'm the good guy. You better not spend it on alcohol to be warm for the night. You better not spend it on a joint. Have some mental comfort. You better not spend it on Doritos, but on organic apples. Or if they're people that aren't into organics, they're like, organics too expensive. That's a waste of money. Buy this. Right? So you give money to people, let them be themselves. And if you have all of these rules that they need to be to get the money, most of us are going to say, no thank you. Homeless, because I don't want to put up with the mental or verbal abuse of domestic violence, relationships, parents, all of the toxic relationships and emotional abuse that people get away from, that become homeless because of it. aren't going to put up with your crap for $50 or $100 because you think I worked for that money, you better spend it how I say. Keep your money. Keep your money. I'll keep my sanity. Thank you very much. I think I completely went off topic, right? Anyway. My night at OlyCap was much like I see in those torture movies where they play loud, hard rock music to get the truth out of you the next morning and deprive you of sleep, and fluorescent lights and chaos and fighting. There wasn't no peace to be found. So if you're wondering why people are a little bit post-traumatic stress that are living at the shelter, well, you got a little bit of an insight why. All right, God bless you. Bye-bye.